We are called as Christians to be both just and merciful, to love God and our neighbor. Our guest today on Shalom World G2G is Thomas Donnelly. He is an associate judge of the Circuit Court of Cook County, Chicago, Illinois. We talk about justice and mercy and what it means to follow the Lord and to serve the law.
Honorable Thomas More Donnelly serves as an associate judge assigned to the trial section of the Illinois Circuit Court of Cook County. Sworn in as a judge in the year 2000, he hears civil jury trials where he has presided over several hundred. An awardee of the Harold Sullivan Award from the Illinois Judges Association in 2018, and the Impact Award from the Center for Disability and Elder Law in 2019.
When we judge actions, that we should be modest about that we can only judge the outward appearances, and we may not know the intentions, the hidden intentions of the heart, which are manifested only to God.
Judge Donnelly chairs the Illinois Judicial College Board of Trustees, the Illinois Supreme Court's educational arm. He serves on the faculty of the National Judicial College and teaches hundreds of state court and military judges all over the USA. Before becoming a judge, he clerked for the Honorable Mary Ann G. McMorrow and served as an assistant public defender for 13 years. He has chaired both the Chicago Bar Association Professional Responsibility Committee and the Illinois State Bar Association Standing Committee on Professional Conduct. For 4 years, he served as the reporter for the Illinois Supreme Court Committee on Professional Responsibility. Judge Donnelly has taught at the Loyola University Law School since 1987 and has directed the Philip H. Corboy Trial Advocacy Fellowship for 20 years, from 1995 to 2016. He has served as president of the Catholic Lawyers Guild of Chicago, where he has been a member of the Guild's board since 1988. The Lawyers Guild has named him the 2014 Catholic Lawyer of the Year.
To the degree I saw Christ in them, they were able to see Christ in me. And so exercising that compassion or empathy.
Judge Donnelly was also a past chair of the John Howard Association of Illinois, the only independent citizen correctional oversight organization that advocates for reforms that improve the quality of life of prisoners. He is the current vice chair of the National Center for the Laity, which promotes social teachings on labor. He is the father of 4 boys and is married to Ann Wicker. He serves as a lector, teaches RCIA classes to adults interested in becoming Catholic, and has been serving as a confirmation catechist for 7 years.
Welcome to Shalom World G2G, Judge Donnelly.
Thank you, Pete.
No, it's wonderful to have you, and I'm going to jump right into a kind of a zinger of a question. I remember reading in Scripture Jesus saying, "Judge not, lest you be judged," and you're a judge. So can you help us understand for the viewers how you balance the need to do your job and do it well and uphold the law, while also following the Lord's kind of directive there?
Well, it's important, I think, for jurors and judges, and of course our system is primarily a jury system where citizens judge as well, that we are judging actions, we're not judging people. Our Lord will judge us at the end of time, but we are judging the outward manifestations of intent through actions, and that's far different. So say, for instance, within a criminal or civil context, you're judging whether somebody is committed a crime or committed an act of negligence. You're not looking inside the heart of the person. You're looking, what is their manifested intent? Were they complying in a civil case with the duties we have to use due care for the safety of others? And that's an objective finding. It has to do with just what you can see, what you can hear. So that's why we rely on witnesses to talk to us about those things. It isn't a probing examination of the soul. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, is to be very humble when we judge actions, that we should be modest about that. We can only judge the outward appearances, and we may not know the intentions, the hidden intentions of the heart, which are manifested only to God. And so I think every judgment we make about actions, even in an ordinary daily life as human beings, should always be with a caveat that we don't know. Somebody may do something bad to us at work or in our family, but we don't know what their intention was. And their intention might be good. We should always, I think, reserve that possibility. Judge Learned Hand said that the spirit of liberty is never too sure of itself. And I think we should in our life never be too sure that somebody meant ill, even when we think clearly they were pursuing something to hurt us or do us wrong. So I think that both in life and in judging, if we have a certain amount of humility and modesty about our ability to judge what people's intentions were and confine ourselves merely to judging actions. Was this act of this or that kind of category? Was this kind of touching, if we say a battery? Was this a touching of another person where there was not consent for that touching? Well, that's simply something to be determined by objective evaluation of witness testimony. It doesn't have anything to do with the judging of the hearts.
When you look back at your life, was there a time or a series of moments when your relationship with Jesus became real?
I grew up in a very socially active Catholic parish in Oak Park, Illinois, the St. Giles Family Mass Community. And this was a group was totally committed to living out the gospel. When they saw a problem, they took it on head on. So when there were Guatemalan refugees, they took 8 families from Guatemala, found them homes and found them jobs, really lived out the gospel in practice. I had the time when I was preparing for confirmation, I decided not to get confirmed with the rest of my confirmation class. I decided I was going to wait and decide, am I really going to commit myself to this? And I took a year of reflection. This was when I was about 14. And I said, either I'm going to take this religion seriously or I'm not going to do it at all. And I think, it came to me as a young adolescent then that if religion isn't the center of your life, it isn't really religion. So there were a lot of folks, I saw in the outside world, not in my parish community, who had a religious affiliation, but didn't center their lives around their religion. And I sort of made a decision at that point that I was going to be religious and my life was going to be centered around religion. And one thing that helped me in that was my confirmation sponsor, Father Steve Shimmick, who was the parish priest for us at that time, gave me a book called The 7-Story Mountain. And in that book, there's this wonderful dialogue with Bob Lax, Merton's friend. And Lax says, "Tom, what do you want to be?" And Merton responds, "I want to be a good Catholic." And Lax responds, "No, you don't. You want to be a saint." And Merton says, "Oh, a saint? How could I be a saint? I'm so flawed. I've got so many inadequacies." And Lax says, "All you need to be a saint is the desire to be one. That God takes care of the rest." And really, it's the giving over of one's life continually and repeatedly. And I think that was something I've come to. We work on our own efforts come to naught. If we turn ourselves over to God and we allow God to work in our life, God takes care of the rest.
I noticed in your bio you served for many years as a public defender. And I have some experience with this because my uncle was a public defender for many years. And so I have great respect for that profession and that noble duty to defend those who maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to defend themselves. Did you find that your faith allowed you to have a certain empathy and compassion for the people you were serving?
Well, one of the things that I was really blessed to have before my work as a public defender is for 2 years before law school, after college, I had worked for a Dominican priest in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And he directed a liturgical institute that centered around the lives of the saints. So I had studied a number of the saints who worked with the poor, especially St. Vincent de Paul, St. Camillus Tolellus, and St. John of God. And when I came to my work as a public defender, which was serving poor people accused of crimes, I knew I had to give them the highest level of legal representation. But the other factor that immediately became apparent to me is that these people were suffering people. And their suffering was something that I had to respond to humanly. I couldn't just respond as an automaton or a lawyer, addressing their need as a merely technical legal need. I had to respond from the heart. And some of that was very simple, touching, holding, but some of it was more complex, learning to visit clients' families in their home, taking the time to visit clients even when it really wasn't necessary for the technical legal representation, but to establish a relationship. And I came to very much realize the truth of what John Paul II said with respect to Matthew 25:31. John Paul II said that's not just an invitation to charity, it's a page of Christology. So when Christ talks about the Son of God coming in all his glory and judging us based on how we treated the poor, that is a real clarification of that when we encounter the poor, we encounter Christ. And the poor who are incarcerated are the poorest of the poor. In some ways, I think that the encounter for me was an encounter with Christ above any other encounter I've had in my life. They were Christ to me. They ministered to me in a way in which, to the degree I saw Christ in them, they were able to see Christ in me. And so exercising that compassion or empathy, that human contact with people who are in dire need of reassurance, of comfort, is a way in which we come to know Christ, because Christ is in the suffering. And Christ is loyal to suffering above all else. And so when we're present, and I found this later in my life with the sick, that when we're present to those who are suffering, we are present to Christ. So those 13 years as a public defender were a channel of grace for me. Not only did I fight with all my legal skills to represent the poor to the best of my ability and with passion, but I also made sure that I treated each and every one of my clients as an alter Christi, another Christ.
When we look at the scriptures, you see God reveal himself both in his justice and then, of course, in his great mercy. When you're sitting on the bench, you're pursuing justice. Does mercy play a role? Or how do you bring mercy into the equation, in particular in your role as a judge?
It's really two sides of the same coin. St. Paul says in Romans 13:10 that love is the fulfillment of the law. And you say, what is that? Why? How could that be? But the law is a way in which we express our love for others, because it is a way in which we limit our own actions in order to show love for others. So I'm driving down the street at 70 miles an hour and just blow through a stop sign, and then I run over somebody. Well, I am not limiting my actions by my love or concern for others. It's our obedience to law in which we show love. And so that when Jesus says that the whole of the law hangs on two premises, love of God and love of neighbor, that all of the law hangs on those two things. I think you need to think about civil law as being the embodiment of love of neighbor. And I think that that's helpful in understanding what law's role is that it's helping and teaching us how to love. Now, we can't teach others how to love by being unloving. It doesn't work. The means contain the end. So any judging has to show a deep and profound respect for all the individuals involved. As Sister Helen Prejean says, we are better than the worst thing we've ever done. So even if we were the one who drove through that stop sign and drove at 70 miles an hour and ruined or ended the life of a 21-year-old man, as the case I had recently. That doesn't mean you are irredeemable. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy of love and respect. Now, it's a different thing to ask whether there's a truth about that action that needs to be recognized. And, the St. Paul also says that we must have caritas in veritate, charity in truth. So there is an objective truth about what you were doing, that you did violate the speed limit, that you did go through the stop sign, that you did kill another human being. Those are truths that need to be faced, but they can't be faced in an atmosphere of vindictive payback. And our Lord is very clear that the justice he talks about, the justice that he envisaged, is a judgment or justice that's framed by the opportunity for forgiveness. The judgment is only leading up to the opportunity for mercy. The judgment with justice is, we hope, an opportunity to move on to mercy and charity. But that's not our role as judges in the civil system. That's for the offended party. They're the ones who can forgive. We are merely conduits of judgment or justice. The other party has to embrace that role of forgiveness. And we can set the stage for that by the way we treat everyone and welcome it. But that's not something we can arrogate to ourselves.
Clearly, you've reached a certain level of success professionally, and I know you're a family man as well. What does it look like for you to balance your spiritual life, your professional life, your family life, your kind of all the elements that are thrown at you? What does it look like for Judge Donnelly to live, whatever it means to live a balanced life?
I think that we have to center our lives around our family and center our family around our faith. And we work to live, we don't live to work. Christ said he came to give us life and to give it to us more abundantly. And so it's really our duty to enjoy life, to enjoy things, nature, literature, art. That is our birthright as Catholics. And if we reduce ourselves merely to our work, which is very easy in this society, I think it's very easy to sort of reduce yourself to your use in your job. But children and wife play a really important part in my work life in that they are the main vehicles to keep me humble. I think it's a great thing to have. I have 4 boys aged 20 through 30 and a wife of now almost 35 years. And they know my flaws more than anyone, and they still love me. So those are 2 things I think that are very important, that love doesn't mean you're flawless, and also that somebody who knows you and knows your flaws is able to find something about you that is still lovable. And it's been very helpful, I think, raising children. Children really perceive any hypocrisy you have where you're not living up to your values. And I try to be a person of values, but they will point out, and they pointed out when I was raising them, all sorts of things where I wasn't doing what I professed. And they did that in a way no one else had done, not even my wife, had really challenged me about certain things I was doing. And that's difficult. It's really difficult to be challenged by your children. But I think it's very helpful in cultivating humility. And, if you pay attention to your children and your wife, I think you can grow in holiness in a way that you can't through all the novenas, masses, praying the divine office, rosary. Those things are, those are important in my life. Whenever I would do legal conventions, I would take all of them with me, the whole family. I was the only lawyer who did this. And so we would show up at these bar reception parties. I'd have all my family. And I taught in Rome. I brought my whole family over to teach a comparative criminal procedure class. And, the other teachers, professors were astounded. You brought your family? I said, "Why? I really couldn't leave them at home. I would be sad without my family." And it was a thing that I think, changed their reaction to me as a person, um, that they learned a little bit about me. But it was also, I thought, a kind of witness, that my family is not just extraneous to me. And so I've tried to incorporate my family to the degree I can in my work life, bringing them down to court, having them see me in my work, um, and having that all sort of related. But it sometimes can be tough. I mean, the law is a very demanding profession, and for a while there, I was trying to do all my legal work in the mornings from 5 a.m. till 10 when we were homeschooling our kids, so I could do some homeschooling. And you try to do different tactics, but I think if you keep in mind that you're centering your life around your family and your family around your faith, and then you use different tactics to sort of live that out, I think that that's the way to holiness and sanctity in family and marriage.
Well, Judge, thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you for your humility. Thank you for your service to the law and for your service to the Lord. And thank you so much for being a guest here on Shalom World G2G.
Thank you, Pete.
I'm so inspired by Judge Donnelly's humility, both before the law and before the Lord. He invited us to see everyone in front of us as Jesus, recognizing that Jesus is represented in the poorest of the poor. May we move forward knowing that the Lord is going to bring us into relationship with Him through even these little ones. This has been Shalom World G2G. I'm Pete Burak. We'll see you next time.
My life is a miracle. Every child has a story of God's love to share. Shalom World, tune into God's love story.